Haiti was an interesting culture because people, generally speaking, had a very open awareness about spiritual manners, and there was open beliefs around death, around soul, and so on, which was just part of the general culture. So I think this is maybe the context within which my experience happened, but because it happened in Haiti, maybe this is why it happened and it could happen. So in 1997, I had a lover who was much older than me, and suddenly out of the blue he just died. And I was very distraught because I really liked him. He was like a friend and a lover. And he lived in another town, so he would only come at weekends, so usually on a Friday. Suddenly he would arrive and spend the weekend in the capital with us. He was a very interesting guy, and he also took me into places of Haiti where I wouldn't have gone on my own. So suddenly it was like I had lost all of that. I had lost my friends, I had lost his company, I had lost his support, and I was very, very distressed. So I was at my sister's. She lived in a beautiful gingerbread house, and it was Friday afternoon, and suddenly I realized that was the time where normally Lucien would have arrived. So it was very emotional to remember that fact. So I very much felt, well, let's have a cup of tea, because normally this is what we would have had done when Lucien arrived. We just had a cup of tea, sit together, start talking. So I went to do a cup of tea, I came back, and my mom was there visiting us. So I laid the table with our 3 cups. And next to me there was an empty chair, and suddenly on that empty chair, very, very, as graphic, as solid, that as if Lucien was there, but Lucien was there. Suddenly, boom, his presence was there. And it was very, very potent. It was very surprising. So surprising that I actually said to my mom and to my sister, oh my God, I'm actually feeling that Lucien is there. And both my mom and my sister went, yes, we can feel that. So because it was so obvious that Lucien was there, his spirit was there, his soul was there, that I said, well, okay, well, I'm going to put a cup of tea for Lucien. So I went and brought a cup of tea for him. And he used to be a chain smoker. So I said, right, well, we need to have a cigarette for Lucien. So I went in the house, found some cigarettes, an ashtray. I lit up the cigarettes, and the cigarette was burning at his place. And it was very odd on one level, because the chair was empty. There was nobody physically, but Lucien was there nonetheless. His presence was there. So it was, and it happened so spontaneously. It was actually beautiful on one way. So the cigarette smoke just went, and Lucien was there, and Lucien just died. So it was very painful at the same time. And in those days, we used to look at some cards, some Osho cards actually. And at one point I felt like, wow, well, let's pick up some cards, and let's pick up a card for Lucien. We're all going to pick a card. So I said, well, okay, well, I'm going to pick up a card for Lucien. And the card I picked up was acceptancy. And that moment, it was very powerful, because not only Lucien's spirit or soul was there, his presence was there. It was very raw that he had died, and I was very much in pain, but it was beautiful that he was there, and he was really there. And my mom and my sister could also feel that. But suddenly we get this message for him and from him of acceptancy. really accept that I've just died, accept your pain, accept everything. And that's something I've never forgotten. And suddenly, as quickly as his presence had been there with us, boom, his presence was gone. Suddenly, boom, Lucien wasn't there with us anymore. And so it was like, wow, well, Lucien's gone. And both my mom and my sister went, yeah, we feel he's gone. And that remains for me as a very soothing and beautiful memory. I remember how I suffered from his loss, but that was a beautiful moment, very, very unique. And I think it was possible to happen because it was held in that Haitian culture where things like that were normal. And I was very lucky enough that both my mom and my sister were witness and were able to validate that phenomena. The last time I saw Lucien alive, which was probably just a week before or 2 weeks before, he arrived and he said to me, right, let's go down to Port-au-Prince, downtown Port-au-Prince, which could be potentially a very rough place to go, and you would have to know your way around. And he took me to places which I had never been, places where artists, Haitian artists, would display their work for themselves. We bumped into, I remember, a mad person, because in Haiti lots of people are mad, they've lost their sanity through trauma, and he had the most amazing respectful interaction with this person who was obviously completely mad. And then he explained to me that this man had been a fellow teacher with him, and he still had an absolute relationship of respect, even if this person lived like a homeless tramp mad person in the streets of Port-au-Prince. Anyway, by the time we came back and we parted, we said goodbye, I remember having a very strong sense of oozing gratitude and appreciation for him, and appreciation for him in my life. And I remember expressing that to him. I was just thanking him. It was really coming from my heart, and I felt so grateful to have Lucien in my life and for who he was. And that's the last time I saw him alive. So again, it's very interesting when you look back on those events and you think, wow, it's amazing. How come at that precise moment I had this very strong feeling, was able to share that with him, and then that's the last time I see him alive. Those for me are mystical moments as well. They are very subtle, but they are mystical.